Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus, here with a review of SHFiguarts Kamen Rider Diend! This may hurt a little. Or it might tickle. Diend's Figuart release pulled off something that I was not expecting at all, which was that buried beneath all those slats of cards in his face, there is very vaguely the impression of, perhaps, some clear plastic compound eyes. At least I think there might be. It's so hard to tell through all the hoo-ha in the way, but you know, I congratulate them on still maintaining that level of detail to get across the optics that are underneath the heat vent that is his face. Similarly, on the Diend driver, there's some pretty impressive deco all over the thing, and this deco extends all the way down to his belt, the Diend buckle, which is not all that impressive in person, but I'm kind of impressed that they went for the barcode tampo on it. And as you can see, he also has a card holder. Outside of that, his detail is all very accurate to the show and very representative of what Diend is, that being basically a differently colored Decade wearing a really big-ass pair of shoulder pads and chest protectors and whatnot. However, there's a little problem with this guy, and I'll get it right out of the way. His posability is limited. Right up here. It's really limited. It stops there. There's no way to get the shoulder pads to lift up any higher, and that's a big disappointment. On the bright side, Diend, as far as I know, never really went into any kind of highly acrobatic poses with his arms, so I don't really feel like any poses have been robbed of me that were necessary. However, it's still a bit of a downside, and definitely something that you can knock against this guy. At least he maintains full torso posability, so the chest piece doesn't get in the way, and otherwise, he's more or less identical to Decade, except for accessory count. He's identical to Decade in accessory count in many ways, and completely different in one somewhat negative way. As far as hands go, his set of hands are identical to Decade, including sculpt. Aside from his fists and holding things hands, he has his open hands and his card holder hands. Now, his cards are a rather interesting thing in a positive light. He comes with a slightly more interesting variety of cards, since he doesn't have the stigma of needing to have all 10 Heisei riders available. So you actually get a pretty decent variety of things here, and many of them are actually representative of what came with the Diend Driver Deluxe toy. So you get a cool spread here, of course, his trusty Ryo Troopers. I still can't believe those haven't been Figuarts-sized yet. And you even get some of his attack cards, as well as the back of any Diend relevant card. Unfortunately, much like the deluxe Diend driver, his own Diend driver has an unfortunate limitation. Basically, what you see here is the only style of the gun that you get when it's open. I was really hoping that some kind of sliding mechanism would have been in there, or maybe even just a completely second alternate Diend driver in its closed position. Sadly, though, that's all he gets, is the one gun. However, that aside, he really accomplishes everything else that a Diend figure would need to accomplish. I think that it's an okay sacrifice. I mean, I'm sure that I'm possibly the only person who was really hoping to be able to display him with his gun closed. I'm quite sure it's not a common request when it comes to Diend. At the end of the day, it's nothing to really get worked up about, but I still kind of wish that the option had been there. Mostly because, as I always say, I hold Figuarts up to a slightly higher level of judgment than some other toy lines. But at the end of the day, this is a very decent representation of Diend, and if you want to have a high-quality Diend on your shelf, then I'd say pick this guy up. However, due to his restricted shoulder posability, and his vague lack of accessories, mostly revolving around his single-function Diend driver, I'd say pick this guy up after Decade if you're limited on funds. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus with a look at the Man of Sea Cucumber, and I think that he's gonna get out of here because today's gonna end in a pretty apocalyptic manner.